We mentioned a legend in Michelle Heyman, Ellie Brush. We thought we'd take some inspiration from that as Michelle Heyman's potentially about to break the games record in the Liberty A-League and just discuss and get your Mount Rushmore of your best 5 Australians to play in the Liberty A-League, your favourite, or, the players you think have made the biggest impact on the league over the years. We mentioned how long the competition's been going and the greats that have played in it, you two amongst them. I want to get your top 5 players. We'll go from 5 up to 1, bottom to top, to get who you guys think individually were the top 5 players or are the top 5 players to ever play in the Liberty A-League. We'll start with Cath. Cath, who's your 5th best player, Australians only, to play in the Liberty A-League?
I've gone with Kim Carroll. I think she's been, a fantastic stalwart for this game, and she's played across, a couple of teams now, and she's still going strong. And I know sometimes as defenders, people don't normally get the recognition that they probably deserve, and you got to give it to her. She's been doing super well every season. She's just been solid. Especially, she's gone back to Perth Glory this season, and I think she's got about 155 games to her name in Liberty A-League, which is fantastic. And again, sometimes defenders don't get the credit that they deserve, and Kim Carroll is number 5 for me.
Well, she's one of those ones that's, in that top 5. I think she's just below Michelle Heyman. It's between those two now that Teresa Polias isn't currently playing, but it's between those two now of basically who retires first in terms of who will be the top appearance maker. And, as a Queenslander, she's from North Queensland, from Tully. She's got a sports centre named after her up there as well. So it's a great pick on your list there, Cath. Grace, who's your 5th?
Cath, I like that shout. That's a good one. I haven't gone the same, but I've got a similar in a Queenslander and the great Claire Polkinghorne. Hard to look past in the league. Just her contribution to Australian football and particularly Brisbane Roar and formerly Queensland Roar, what she did in the early years of the competition and how long she spent there and what she built at that club was really, really special. And she's obviously gone on to do wonderful things since leaving the A-League, but yeah, I found it very hard to look past Polks.
We spoke about it a lot on the commentary on the weekend as well, Cath, about, that pantheon of Brisbane players that came through, that Queensland talent, Ish Ferguson, Kim Carroll, Claire Polkinghorne, Minnie, Yallop. I mean, there's so many. I mean, the list goes on, and she was, I guess, symptomatic of that era of players and one that's truly a great of the game. Cath, who's your 4th on the list?
Number 4 for me is also Claire Polkinghorne. Again, I think, when she did play her football in the Liberty A-League, she was just immense. She was always, the rock of the Brisbane Roar team, and, so loyal as well. You never seen her go to any other team. And I think it's only been now that she hasn't been doing the both seasons. Obviously, as she gets older, it gets harder. And also we can't go past how many championships that she's also won with the Brisbane Roar as well. And she's always been that core part of that team. And I hope to see after her time with the Matildas and possibly her time overseas that she does even return to Brisbane Roar and maybe play out the last couple of seasons there, because again, I think she's looking great and she's looking fit, and I'm sure there's a spot for her if she wants it.
I think there's no coincidence there in terms of the turn of fate since she's left the Brisbane Roar and how they've tracked after her departure and how things are going at the moment for the Brisbane Roar. Grace, who's your 4th?
Well, Cam, this may be a bit before your time, a name you're less familiar with, given your age, but I've gone with a classic here in Colette McCallum. She is a world-class player, no longer in the game. She retired a few years back, but in terms of what she, again, contributed to Australian football, this wand of a left foot. I trained and played with her at what was formerly ACTAS, the ACT Academy of Sport, and then Canberra United as well. And what I learned from her in a couple of years was just immense. Such a down-to-earth character as well, always up for a good laugh and a good time. But her football, she was just next level. And she was the type of player at a time where this left foot delivery, the silkiest of touches, her football knowledge. She was Australian, but obviously born in Scotland. And I think when you've got a medal named after you, the PFA has the Australian Young Player of the Year award, which is the Colette McCallum Medal. Look, I think when you've got that kind of contribution to the game in the country, it speaks for itself. So my fourth position is Colette McCallum.
I think I am showing my age there. Grace might have to blow the dust off the archive and get it out. Cath, who's your third?
My third one is Lena Karmas. I think you can't go past Leans. Again, just a tough competitor. Always knew where the goal was when she was on the pitch. And, I had the pleasure of being a coach when she came over to the Wanderers as well and wanted to play out those last couple of seasons. But again, won so many championships and premierships with Sydney. And, you got to give it to Lean. She wasn't the most, talented player, or, she never had that sort of limelight, but she was one of the hardest workers in the game, and, really worked hard to do everything that she did in her career. She had a couple of seasons over at Fortuna Horin as well. She played many games with the Matildas, but in the Liberty A-League, I think you can't go past Lena Karmas and what she's done for our game.
True legend of the Liberty A-League, it must be said. Grace, who is your third?
I've got Teresa Polias in my third position. Look, again, I think the contribution that she made to largely Sydney FC, with a couple of glimpses there at Central Coast, but Sydney FC is just boundless, and what she achieved with that club in the way of premierships, championships. But she was just a mainstay in the midfield for so many years, and obviously isn't in the game at the moment and has just started playing NPL again following the birth of her daughter. But just what a legend. And Sydney FC, in my mind, I think Teresa Polias, like, she epitomizes everything about the Sky Blues. So, and it, as well, one of the, tied currently leading appearance maker for the league, completely unsurprising. And look, I'd love to see her back playing again, but legend of the game.
I was about to say, there's no one more Sydney FC than Teresa Polias in my mind. And it's great to see her make this list as well. Cath, who is your second player on the list?
Number 2 is Michelle Heyman. I think we can't go past the records that she's breaking. Obviously, she's gone for that 100 goals. She's got the highest number of appearances with Teresa Polias. Again, just being quality, especially this season. And I don't think people actually truly understand how, what an achievement it is to be able to go multiple seasons over and over again, and to be actually on your A game and actually being one of the superstars of the team, and at her age now. So you've got to give it to Michelle Heyman. She's been a prolific goal scorer, a great addition to this footballing family. She's played for the Matildas. She's come back. She's had her ups and downs in her career, and to see her in the form that she is right now, I think is a credit to her and her mindset and her way that she put herself back into the game and got herself back, performing and doing what she's doing so well. So Michelle Heyman, number 2.
We sing her praises all the time. Truly one of the game's greats, and perhaps this weekend she can be on her own in terms of another record. Grace, who's your second pick?
Yeah, well, Cath is copying my homework here. I've also gone Michelle Heyman in second place. And look, I remember when Michelle was playing for the Central Coast Mariners in the first year of what was then the W League, and we had a game, and obviously I was playing for Canberra United, and I remember this so clearly, but we had to kick off and it was passed back to me, and I got absolutely bowled over by this girl who I didn't know who she was. She had a ponytail, she was fast, she was strong. I learned that day that was Michelle Heyman. And that was the kind of impact that she started in this league and continued on for many years to come. Obviously now really wonderful to see her at Canberra United, but she's got my second place position.
Grace, I think we can't go past as well. I think we need to mention, especially for the younger players in women's football, is that, do you remember Michelle Heyman only started at a late age? She never started playing football from a young age. I think when she first came into the fold, I think she might have been about 19, possibly, if I'm correct, 18, 19, when she started playing at the Stingrays. And that's fantastic as well, because you see so many of the players that do come through the Liberty A-League that start at such a young age. And for Michelle Heyman to start so late in her career, I think it's really important to know that, for female footballers in the game at the moment, sometimes it doesn't happen for you at 14, 15, 16. If you're not part of institute programs and you might be playing in the NPL too, or you might be at park football, never sort of give up on that dream. And I think for Michelle Heyman, once she got into the Stingrays because, she wasn't sort of in a sort of a program or in any sort of pathway. The pathway isn't generally A to B. Your pathway can be whatever path you want to take to get to the Liberty A-League.
Yep, spot on. And when she first started in the A-League, she was with Sydney FC, and she struggled to get minutes. She was not a regular starter. She was not getting game time. It was only then when she went from Central Coast and then on to Canberra United that she established herself as a player. And, look back 15 years and she's gone on to be a 2 times Julie Dolan medalist winner, all-time leading goal scorer, and soon to be all-time leading appearance maker. So for a young girl who didn't go through those more traditional pathways of building your way up in the game, look, I think that's even more impressive.
It's amazing from her, and what she's gone on to achieve is truly incredible. But Cath Cannuli, who is your GOAT? Who's your number one?
The Greek goddess, Teresa Polias. Got to give her number one. Prior to obviously stepping away from the game to have a little girl, I think, she's been the center of that team at Sydney FC. And I'm pretty sure if you look at the stats, I reckon there wouldn't be many minutes that she didn't play across all her seasons in this competition. And, you never see her getting subbed off. You never see her not starting. She was always there, part of that team. And, she was a little general on the pitch. She just, maneuvers everything. She works that whole team. She's brought up so many young players and mentored and given them, the next generation so much hope. And I know still to this day, she works a lot with those Sydney FC players and the younger ones that are coming through, Mary Stanek-Floody and Sarah Hunter and Taylor Ray, and all those girls that have come through Sydney FC have all got great things to say about Teresa Polias. And I really hope that we do see her back in the competition, and not having a baby stops that from her. And whether it is back at Sydney FC or whether it's at another A-League club, I'm pushing for her to go and be the star player, going back to Central Coast Mariners where it all started for her. But, again, credit to T. She got that cap finally. She ended up getting that Matilda's cap as well, which was, for me, it was such a beautiful moment because she's been such a hard worker in her whole career. And yeah, we're very lucky to have someone like T again, not just on the field, but off the field. I think she's been an amazing footballer to have in our competition.
The Greek goddess. I'll have to send her. I'll have to send her that clip. That's for sure. I'm sure she'll like it as well. Grace, who's the GOAT? Who's the top?
Well, it's hard to go past the GOAT, Sam Kerr. I think what she's done at Perth Glory as a marquee player, as a Julie Dolan medalist, as golden boots across the years, just exceptional. And I think in her early days in Perth Glory, she wasn't the Sam Kerr that she obviously is today, but in her second stint at Perth, she was astounding. And I think once she came back from a couple of really nasty injuries, she had that foot injury that slowed her down for a while. But after that, it was exceptional the way in which she returned to the world stage. And now look at her. And it's really, really hard to walk past a player who, in my mind, is perhaps one of Australia's most internationally recognised sports stars. She is the GOAT of women's football, and the fact that she's part of our A-League women here in Australia is pretty special.
And she's was voted the most influential sports player in women's football or in Australia. And as well, she's the top scorer of any men's, women's in the entire country for the national team. So it's great to see her. Obviously, her goal record for Chelsea is incredible as well, but this is a really nice list of players, guys. So love to see it.